Hello everyone, welcome to my video for the personalized combo box. This video will kind of walk through what we need to print and generally how to assemble this 3D printed combo box. The idea is that we have a box with 4 dials that have to be set correctly in order for it to open. In this case, we'll set it here and then it opens up. To start, what we need to print is we need to print one box, 4 inner dials, 8 what I call lower locking discs. These are small. Then we need to choose which dials we're going to make up. I call this a personalized locking box because we could choose what dials we want to make up our combination. In this case, this is going to be for a birthday gift. I'm going to put some money inside, but have it be locked in a kind of a personal riddle. And it's going to be around their birthday, in which case we have kind of this emotional dial that'll be part of our riddle. The day of the week that they were born, in this case it's a Friday. Here we have their zodiac sign, which will be the ram. And then finally we're going to do the number of people in their family in the riddle, which answer will be 6. So I've printed these 4 dials. Each dial needs to have an appropriate coupler, as I call it. If you note here, this is for an 8 choice dial. The coupler is octagonal on there. The other thing I'm going to point out right now on the couplers is you have these arrows, actually on both sides, on these, those help us in assembly and kind of tell us where we're at. The 10 choice dial in this case will have just a slightly different coupler, so we'll use dial coupler 10 for that one. And then the 12 dial, we'll use the dial coupler 12. So just make sure when you're printing your dials, you kind of take note and print the appropriate coupler for it. Then we will also print a handle. In this case, I printed the cat handle. The last thing we need to print is the cover. And here we have another decision to make on which cover we do. And the box supports 2 locking mechanisms. One I call the single stage, which you simply need to print the single stage cover, and then you're done. Or the 2-stage lock, which has a few extra pieces, but is a little more sophisticated lock. And we'll go over what those pieces are in a bit. To start, we're going to take our 4 inner dials, our 8 lower locking discs, and our box. And we're going to tip the box on its side. This is a symmetrical box, and it doesn't matter which side we choose here first. The box has access points for these lower dials. So what we do is we go in and we just pop these in. Now they're going to be sitting in there loose. Now we'll add one of our dials, inner dials, to this side. We're not going to move the box around because they are loose. They could fall right back out. If we look at our inner dial, I like to, it doesn't really matter how we put it in, but I like to put it in where this rounded portion up here is at the top. It's just going to make it easier when we add our couplers later. So if we look at the top of our box, we have a little slot there, and this just goes in, and it could go in either way. We just slide it down and then kind of work it down in there. I'll have a little screwdriver with me sometimes to kind of work it in there. And then we just do each side. While I'm doing this, I'll comment, I printed all this with PLA and a 0.2 layer height, everything you see here. I do a 8% infill. I think I use cubic, but it really doesn't matter, whatever you prefer. And these discs should just slide right in there. And now we're set for adding our outer dials. For the outer dials, we're going to start with the couplers. For my box, it doesn't really matter which order the dials are in. Maybe you created a riddle where the order does matter. Just kind of be conscious of that. In this case, I'm just going to grab our first one, and we're going to feed the coupler from the inside through, and that will serve as a thing that the dial will lock to. Once we have this kind of sitting, once again, it can only go in one way. You have to provide a little bit of force to kind of let it snap in. And it can be a little tricky initially because you're going to kind of want to look to see where the rounded portion of the inner dial is and match it. And then this arrow on the coupler, at the top of this coupler, matches to the top as well of where that rounded is. So you kind of can kind of feel where it's going to be and then snap it. And we just do that for all 4 of our couplers here. Once again, it's kind of a little bit of a feel and maybe a little bit of working with it. And now we have our 4 couplers seated in our box. Now we can attach our outer dials. What we want to do here is now determine, we're going to set our combination at this point. This is an octagonal one, so I know this is going to take, this coupler takes this 8 choice because there's an octagonal connection on the back. And we're going to do the surprise face. That kind of goes with our little clues. And once again, the arrow on the coupler here on the outside tells us the open position. When this arrow is pointing up, that's when it's open. So then I want to match my surprise face with that. And we're going to, I kind of hold it on the inside of the box, and then it just kind of crunches into place. It's kind of almost a satisfying crunch. The other thing I'll comment, once we have one of our dials on here, it could be kind of stiff. It might feel stiff initially to turn. What you do is kind of work it and push it both ways here at this time, and we can kind of just loosen it up. And then we'll just go around. Here's our other 8. This is a Friday is the right answer, so we'll put Friday at the top in this case. Line it up with the arrow once again. So work it here. I printed all of this without supports, and we kind of get a little roughness sometimes in the hole that could kind of need to be worked out, and we can just do that, and eventually these dials just kind of loosen themselves up. Here's the 10. That's a 6. Once again, just kind of press it in there. It should snap in. You can use glue to hold these on. Initially, I would say don't use glue. We want the ram here. And we're going to snap in this last dial. And there we go. And we have all of our dials set on our box. Now we move to the cover. And here's where we can do one of 2 ways. So, and we'll kind of describe what's going on here, but this is the single stage cover. It's the only thing you need to print for this. The locking mechanism locks to these things there, and it's got this little hole for a grip hole or where the handle will go. If we have our box open to the open stop, the ram, the surprised face, Friday, and 6, this should slide right in, and it does. And then if we lock, and now we can just lock it, we can mix our dials, and it's locked. I'm going to go ahead and put the handle on as well. If we look at the top here, we see on the hole here, one's 2 sides are a little bit wider apart. That's where we seed this, and then it just turns into place, and it kind of locks it. So we're locked. Let's open this up. Kind of make sure everything's working. Still locked. We have 3 of them open, but this one is not yet set to Friday. Once we set this to Friday, it comes right off. So that's the single stage lock. This is actually adequate, I would think, for most cases. It's fine. It is the simplest. If you're doing this for a younger audience, this is the route I would go. The reason I have a second locking mechanism was that since this cover acts on the lower locking discs, once you kind of know how it works, you can lift this and kind of feel a little bit when you're turning. And so somebody that kind of a safe cracker could kind of work it out just by feel. It's not easy, and you kind of have to know what you're doing. So the single stage covers is, like I said, is going to be fine for most cases. Now we're going to go into the two-stage lock. Like I said, you're fine. If you want to just stop here, you're good. But as I was doing this, it bothered me enough that you could kind of guess it once you kind of knew how it worked, that I devised this second locking mechanism. We're going to take our single stage cover and just set it aside. We don't need that. Everything else is the same. So everything we've already done here works just the same with our second locking mechanism. For this two-stage lock, we will need to print the two-stage cover, similar to the one stage. It has the same type of top. It's just that it locks up here in the corner. And it locks using these 4, what I call upper locking discs. These are a little smaller than the lower locking discs. I like to print them in a different color so I don't get them confused. And then it uses this lock bar as well. And then there's 4 channel covers that we'll put on at the end that kind of finish it out. So for this, we have this outer and inner wall situation. We take our lock bar, and we have the arrow legs here kind of pointing down, and we just set it into this thing, and it settles in there. I'm currently in an unlocked position, which is what I want. I want all the dials set to the unlocked position so that it settles all the way down. Then we take, if it's in the locked position, this next step won't work, so you got to set them all the way down. Now we're going to add our locking discs and at the top here, and we go to each corner. We kind of set them in there, and they just kind of pop in. These go in real easy. The hard part is they're just kind of tiny to work with, but they just all kind of snap in here. In each corner. Oops, I already did that one. So now we have our 4 locking discs in place at the top. It's at this point, before we even put the cover on, I like to test it. I like to test that the inner lock bar is going to move freely in their things. And so I just kind of grab the top and I flip it and I kind of listen. And it seems to be sliding up and down quite nicely. The other test we'll do is we'll lock it here even without the cover on. The interesting thing, and it adds a little bit more complexity to it with the double stage locking, is when it's in an unlocked state like it is right now, our dials actually don't turn. I can't turn this beyond the 6 or beyond the RAM in this case. That's because our lock bar has fallen down into the channel and it's preventing our lower lock discs from moving. So what that means is that to actually lock it, we tip, and it just we tip it up down side or enough that it slides forward. Now I can move our dial and tip it back up, and now the lock bar is sitting at the top. And what we want to test here is that when we move this back from 5 to 6, does it drop when all the dials are open? So let's try that. And there it did. And it's really gravity that's pulling that down. So we want to make sure that we're loose and free. The discs, the locking discs are real free, and this lock bar is also very loose in there. If there's any printing artifacts or there's some roughness on the lock bar, you might need to kind of do some post-processing to smooth it down. I've done no post-processing to any of these pieces, and for me, that's fine. So now we're in an open position. Our cover should slide right on. Sure enough, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and add our handle here. It's just easier to test it then. So now we got it on this one. And we're open here, and we can open and close this. Once again, to lock this, I'm not going to be able to lock it at this stage, is a little trick. We tip it forward, I turn it, and now I can turn our dials, mix them up, and we're locked. And if we open up 3 of these, so Friday's right, our surprise face, we'll go to the RAM, and right now we're locked at 5. This feel of trying to pull up on this is the same as if we had one locked, all of them locked, doesn't matter because it's pushing on that lock bar and it hasn't fallen yet. We go to 6 and then we can pop off the cover because we're open. The other thing I'll comment on the cover here, we might have noticed this one has a slot and this one does not. That's each stage 2 and stage 1 cover. I put out 2 different flavors. One, this could kind of like double as a piggy bank. So that's the idea. And so you can imagine this as being a piggy bank if you print the slotted top, or you can print the solid top with no slot, whatever you prefer. The last piece here to our box is these channel covers. These serve 2 purposes. They'll prevent the lock bar from falling out when there's no cover on, and it covers our lock channels here so that any items that may be in the box don't inadvertently block the lock bar from being able to move freely. To put these on, there's a little tab here that's going to lock in down below. So we put this top on first. I just set it in here. It should make it flush with the top, and then we just snap it in place. And we could go around and put 4 of these on to kind of protect all 4 channels. They just snap in. There we go. You can lock it. And we're set. So I hope people enjoy this. I hope it works well for people. If if you want to make my day, go ahead and post comments or makes from whatever model site you downloaded this from. That would make my day. I'd love to see what people do. I've also included step files for blank discs and the handle base, as well as a Fusion 360 project that also has the ability, has the dials in the handle base, so people can make their own custom dials and handles for this. And if people remix them and post those, that would be phenomenal. I'd love to see that. So go ahead and give it a shot. I appreciate the time, and happy printing.